We all know that it's not healthy to drink sodas. Well, a new study just came out showing that sodas actually deposit fat in our livers, our muscles, and in the organs in our belly, around the organs in our bellies.
It's a big deal, and it's not healthy. And what they did in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition is a study where these people drank a liter of soda a day for 6 months. And that's when they found that there was a 27% increase in the amount of fat in the areas you're talking about, Vicki. And these people really were at risk for things like the metabolic syndrome, for diabetes, heart attacks, strokes, hypertension, and for problems with fatty liver. And the fatty liver can even lead to cirrhosis.
Yeah, because we all pretty much know that a large abdomen is indicative of metabolic syndrome. And there's a difference in the kind of fat. Like if we have subcutaneous fat, that's just fat that's underneath our skin. But this ectopic fat that's in our abdomens, that's a dangerous kind of fat, and that increases inflammation.
Exactly. And what happens is when you take in high fructose corn syrup, it has a much stronger tendency to be converted to fat because the body prefers sugar. It prefers glucose. And when you take in high fructose corn syrup, about 40% more of it's converted to fat than if you just had simple sugar. So sugars are different, and you have to respect them as different.
And you know what's interesting to me is that in Europe, they don't use high fructose corn syrup in their sodas. They use sucrose in their sodas.
Right.
So why does the U.S. still use high fructose corn syrup?
Well, it's cheaper. You know, back in 1982, that's when most of the soft drink companies switched from using sucrose to using high fructose corn syrup. When you make high fructose corn syrup, you're actually taking the glucose that's in corn and with a chemical reaction converting it into fructose. And then what you have is the fructose in a liquid solution, which is easy to transport, and it has a much lower cost.
And doesn't it go to our brain and increase our appetite?
It does. The brain sees fructose, and it gives orders to the rest of our body to go ahead and start eating more food because it makes us hungrier.
So you lose them both ends. You just keep getting fatter.
Right. About the only people that can safely eat a lot of fructose are people who are high-intensity athletes. And if you use up the carbohydrate that you take in a soda, the high fructose corn syrup, because you're exercising, that doesn't convert to fat. But the problem is the bulk of us don't do that. What we do is we drink that soda, and then we have our chips, right? And it goes back and forth. And the next thing you know is you're resting or you're watching TV while you're doing it, and that fructose is being turned into fat at a rate that's really pretty quick.
Well, the other thing, too, is that corn is all genetically engineered unless it's organic, so that's another thing just to be aware of. But you know what else I thought was interesting is that one of the hospitals did a study on high fructose corn syrup with the soda drinks, and they were going to sell them at a higher price
to try and reduce. Yeah.
And actually, people didn't buy as many as they normally do. But I'm thinking, why is a hospital even carrying sodas?
Well,
they should be an example for good health.
Well, when you look at a menu, okay, that a patient has, there's almost always a place on it where if you want to get that soft drink, you can. And in fact, they encourage it. And the doctors in the doctors' lounges, what are they having? All kinds of sodas and soft drinks that are a variety of different kinds of sugars in them.
Well, this is why we have an epidemic of obesity.
Exactly.
Or it might be one of the reasons.
Exactly. So for those of us that are normal people that are not exercising all the time hard, I think it's important that we stay away from sodas and high fructose corn syrup because we're taking in about 60 pounds of that a year. And a lot of that's going to turn into fat if we don't exercise. So why take a risk? Stay away from those things. Eat foods that are more whole foods that have fiber and a little bit of fat in them, because if they do, the chances are that you're not going to get that quick rise in sugar, which tends to make the fructose turn into fat.